This is the International Peace Coalition. This is our 70th meeting, 70 weeks in a row. Thank you everyone who has been a participant up to this point. And my name is Anastasia Battle. I'll be your moderator today, as well as Dennis Speed and Dennis Small, who are my co-moderators. Just want to assert to everyone the reason why we've created this International Peace Coalition, this forum, is to bring together and unite the peace movement from around the world above people's ideologies, despite people's disagreements. We have to bring together the international peace movement if we want to stop thermonuclear war, which I'm sure many of you who are joining us today are joining us because you know we are that close to that, as well as facing a horrible genocide happening in Palestine as well. So thank you again, all of you who have been working tirelessly to make this coalition happen. We are going to have a number of speakers today from around the world to go through what's happening. We have a number of battle reports. We're coming off of really, I think I want to say at least 3 major demonstrations, 2 in the United States, 1 in Sweden, and many more, I believe, in Germany. So we'll have many of reports coming in of the activities of the IPC and the participants in that, and also interventions that people are making. So with that, I want to open it up to Helga Tsepp-LaRouche, who is the founder of the Schiller Institute and the initiator of the International Peace Coalition. Please go ahead, Helga. Take it away.
Let me first say hello to all of you. Well, it is as if our efforts are maybe laudable, but I think everybody on this call probably shares the feeling that the events are cascading more quickly towards a potential nuclear war than our efforts so far have been able to slow them down or even reverse it. If people have a more optimistic view, please go ahead and tell me. But right now, we are sitting on the verge of a full-blown war in the Middle East. That is also the view of Fyodor Lukyanov, who is a very known Russian analyst and commentator and policy formulator, who basically thinks that the Middle East is on the brink of a full-scale war. It is very hard to imagine how this is, to be stopped at this last moment, but that is what our call is all about. Because, what happened was naturally on the 1st of October, Iran finally, after 2 months of waiting, after the killing of Hamas leader Haniyeh, did send 400 missiles against Israel. Now, the Israelis said that this was very ineffective. The Iranians claimed that 90% of those missiles got through. It's very difficult to verify this independently. It seems to be clear that quite a number of such missiles did get through, meaning that the Iron Dome is not completely successful, and how could it actually be? Now, it is expected, and one can only almost say that the world is waiting by the minute for that Israel will naturally make a counterstrike against Iran. The Biden administration basically said that they think a full war can still be avoided. Apparently, President Biden did not approve that Israel would strike the nuclear facilities in Iran, which would be the most severe escalation, but only go for oil fields or refineries in Iran. And then naturally the question is what will be the Iranian reaction if Iran would then make a counterstrike against Israel, and then Israel would retaliate against that even more, and then we are on a very short escalation ladder to the absolute catastrophe. Now, the Iranian foreign minister just has arrived in Beirut where there is massive efforts to try to find a successor of Nasrallah. The Israelis apparently have sent a second strike on multiple apartment buildings where the meeting of the Hezbollah leadership is suspected to be. All of this is, not totally verified yet because it's ongoing in a war zone. So you can imagine how tense the situation is. In any case, the Russian government has called on all of its citizens to leave Israel as long as there are still options to catch a flight if they care for their life and safety. And in general, I can only say that, everything is really preparing for an escalation of the situation. Naturally, the U.S. Aircraft carriers are still sitting in the region with many warships in a clear deterrence against Iran. And naturally, Iran, which has been trying to avoid a general war so far, because I think the present leadership has clearly signaled that they understand that there can be no winners in a general war in the Middle East. And I think that the new book, which was written by Israeli journalist Gideon Levy, the title of the book is Killing of Gaza, Report about a Catastrophe. I only have read a report by I think the editor of Consortium News, Chris Hedges, or at least a major journalist there, who basically reports how this Israeli journalist, who is one of the few journalists speaking out in this way, is basically reporting about what is the effect of all of this killing in Gaza, in now the West Bank, Lebanon, on the minds of not only the Palestinians, but also the Israelis, saying that this is leading to the mental destruction of Israel and Palestine, and that Israel has lost its humanity, and that the biggest problem is that all the people watching, both in Israel, but naturally also the international community, which is just, shrugging their shoulders about what is happening, especially in Gaza since 1 year, that this is leading to or threatened to lead to the collective suicide of Israel. And one may add, given the explosive potential and the danger that eventually nuclear weapons could be used in the Middle East, the collective suicide of the whole human civilization. It's that serious. Now, obviously, the other major crisis around Ukraine is no less, maybe less in the headlines, but it is an ongoing escalation there as well. Basically, it seems that the Ukrainian Air Force tried to hit the nuclear power plant in Kursk unsuccessfully, but apparently there was such an effort. And the Russian ambassador in Washington, Anatoly Antonov, basically put out a very, very stern statement saying that the Biden administration would be pushing the world to a nuclear catastrophe. And this was reported in Russian TV. And he also reported about personal threats against himself and other Russian diplomats. Now, in general, the war hysteria in the West is unbroken. There are a few exceptions like Hungary, Slovakia, Georgia, Serbia, and some voices here and there. But in general, the EU policy is still one of going for war with Russia. Sometimes in the future, there is a new EU Commissioner for Defense and Space. His name is Adrius Kubilius, and he is calling for the European Union to boost their military production, and there must be immediately the establishment of a European Defense Union. And he is on the same line like Defense Minister Pistorius, that the war with Russia in 6 to 8 years is inevitable. Now, why do they push the confrontation now if the European Union and European nations are not war ready, in quote? It's all totally irrational. And, as we discussed many times, the real reason for it is neither the situation on the ground in the Middle East nor in Ukraine, even so there are specifics, which give the trigger points and reasons and so forth. But the real fundamental conflict, which we see going into its, obviously into its final phase, is what will happen to the collective West, whose neoliberal system is clearly collapsing as the economy in Germany is in a free fall, and the fear that the countries of the global South are forming an alternative with the BRICS plus the global South representing in the meantime almost 90% of the human population, and they are determined not to go down with the West, even so naturally if it comes to a nuclear war, that could be the fate of all of humanity. Now, I can only say we had a very important event. I want to absolutely not miss to mention. This was on the 2nd of October. We had a event organized by the Schiller Institute with such extraordinary experts like Jack Matlock, former American ambassador in Moscow at the end of the Cold War. And he gave an account of, that there was no such thing as an unprovoked war by Russia. And I think it's extremely important that, you have time witnesses who come forward and speak the truth, because the warfare in who controls the narrative is becoming more ferocious. And unfortunately, even some people in the left are opportunistic and not speaking out the truth. So he gave an account of how actually did we get here 34 years after German unification, the date we celebrated in quote yesterday. And naturally, then he was followed by a leading nuclear weapons expert, Ted Postol, who gave an absolutely hair-raising account of what will happen if it comes to nuclear war. And because of these, not to dismiss the other speakers, but especially because of those two extraordinary presenters, I would urge the IPC participants to not only watch this video, but to help to spread it around the world, because people have to wake up to what a nuclear war would do. And, the minimum which would happen is, a destruction of very, very large parts of human civilization, and in the worst case, all of human life and other life on the planet. And that is what the risk is we are looking at. So I think that is the immediate situation we are confronted with right now. And therefore, I think we have to, hear the different witnesses report about what the degree of mobilization is against it. Yesterday, there was a relatively good demonstration in Berlin, but compared to what we are looking at, very, very far from what it would need to stop it. Because only if these demonstrations become so big that governments have to fear that they will be pushed out of office if they don't respond to the demand of the people in the street, do they have any chance to stop this pending looming catastrophe? So let's discuss all of that, and then really make some very serious brainstorming of how we, as the International Peace Coalition, can escalate our efforts to really stop this unspeakable danger.
Thank you, Helga. I look forward to the many people who are on today for that discussion. I think one of the things that we can do, which we've had discussions about this in the past, is our members making interventions, going and finding public events and speaking truth to power, nonviolent direct action, which a number of our people have made very important interventions at that. I invited Jose Vega, who is probably one of the more famous ones that we've had on our programs. He just intervened on Paul Krugman, who is really, there are lots of words I could call him, but I won't use them on this public forum. Maybe Jose Vega could show the video of the things he called him. But I think this particular intervention is one of the best that you've done, Jose, and a great example of what many people on this discussion right now should go out and do. We need more people doing nonviolent direct action. If you feel like you can't do anything or make a significant impact in the world, that's just not true. That is just not true, and we'll help you figure out how to do that. Work with us, and we're happy to teach you how to do this. So, Jose, why don't you show this video of what you did? And this, yeah.
Sure. So you want me to start with the video? Did you want me to share that, or does Dave have that already ready to go?
He does not have it ready.
Okay. All right. Just give me 1 second here then.
While you're grabbing that, I'll just say this now has gotten 25 million views over the last 24 hours. This is being picked up by both, you would call them left-wing people or right-wing people. It just doesn't matter. It's completely
let me just set up the stage here first, actually, before I even show the video, Anastasia. First of all, this was an event done at the CUNY Graduate Center hosted by Paul Krugman. This guy is a New York Times columnist, a columnist, and a so-called Nobel laureate. I don't really know exactly what that means, especially when the award is in economics, and he earned it in 2008, which I don't really know what you have to do to win an award in 2008 in economics. But regardless, this was an event that was designed to tell people the economy is actually doing very good because the stock market says so and the GDP says so. And as a result, people should feel optimistic about the future. And this is why the incumbent is going to win. And so they were then asking, well, why do people think the economy is bad? Why do people think the economy is not doing good? And that is the context for this intervention. And so I will now play the intervention here, and then I'll say more after the intervention. But that's the stage, CUNY Graduate Center, Paul Krugman, a bunch of New York Times columnists, and now I'm going to play the intervention. Here we go.
Uh-oh, Nobel Prize-winning economist here to tell us how great the economy is. I certainly wonder how the residents of Asheville, North Carolina must be feeling right now with no access to power or water or communication with the outside world. I wonder how enthusiastic they are about the economy right now. I wonder how enthusiastic the residents of the South Bronx must be feeling about the economy. Hey, maybe North Carolina should rename itself Israel so it'll get $20 billion in aid. Or maybe Ukraine so it can get $300 billion in aid. Maybe the South Bronx should do the same thing. I mean, I'm sure the economy is great for smug liberals like yourself who make $5 million and are worth $5 million. I'm sure the economy must be great for all you smug journalists, economists. All of you must be having a great time with the economy when most people can't even pay for basic necessities, for people who are getting evicted because they can't pay their rent. Because over in the South Bronx, just a few miles away from here, there are portions of buildings that are literally collapsing. And I'm supposed to give a shit about the stock market? You want to know why the presidential election is tied right now? Because our money is being sent to Israel and Ukraine. so that they can continue to bomb innocent women and children. You think that's a great economy? I'm sure Israel, with their free healthcare, is having a great time with American taxpayer money. Hey, is anyone here going to talk about the fact that we could be in war with Iran in a few days? Or do we need to focus on the S&P 500? Is that what actually matters? Huh? The S&P 500? When most people may not even be alive here in a few days just because we're on the verge of nuclear war? Hey, listen to me, Mr. Krugman. Your degree is worthless. You might as well use it as paperweight because it means nothing. I hope you enjoy the dead children that the economy is powering. Our economy is definitely very powerful right now. All that stock market money goes to the military complex so that more innocent women and children are dead. And fuck off with the New York Times, the liberal apologists for war and genocide. You all fucking suck. People need to wake up right now, and we need to have peace. We can work with China. We can work with Russia. We don't need to start war with Iran.
So, look, here's the, okay, so let me just give you a quick update on where we stand on that. I think you said, Anastasia, 25 million views. It's actually much more than that, because thankfully, because of the social media platforms like TikTok and Telegram and these other places, the views are just out of control, insane. I'm telling people 35 million, that's because that's just conservative figures, but it's probably much, much higher. And I also want to just highlight as well, this video has been circulating around. I have not seen it covered in any mainstream press. The Gateway pundit did cover it. And of course, Paul Krugman himself had to respond both in a tweet and then 16 hours ago, he published a New York Times article where he said somebody got up at an event where they were yelling about Hurricane Helene and Biden not helping them. And he also said something about Israel. His politics weren't really clear, but here's why this is why Trump is lying. That's what he said in the article. And so he completely tried to avoid everything I was saying and made this about Donald Trump. So the fact that he felt defensive enough that it had to appear in the New York Times shows that the interventions is working. It's not just this single intervention that forced him to respond. This is part of a process that has been ongoing for years now, that was started way back, even before social media existed. But we know that the idea of coming into an event where people are so-called authorities, people are so-called politicians, people are so-called whatever, who are supposed to make decisions on your behalf, and then they tell you that you are not supposed to, question them, or you don't know as much as they do. It is your job, it is your responsibility to intervene, stand up, and tell the truth. Because as quickly as we saw the escalation from the war that Israel has now started with Lebanon to now being struck back by Iran, and now the escalation that is going up, it is happening fast. It is happening extremely fast, and it requires all of us to act faster than that. I really want to emphasize what Helga had just said, about needing to act in the next few days and quickly. I completely agree, because these things do have effects that are not seen. And there are more reports that I can give after, maybe in the Q&A, about an event we crashed before. But I want to say this, on October 17th, I went to Temple Emmanuel, a very big synagogue here in New York City, where Rachel Maddow was speaking. And I stood up and I said, there's an ethnic cleansing happening in Gaza, and all you're doing is telling lies about it. That was 10 days after October 7th. But even then, like 3 years ago, I had already confronted Kamala Harris. And I said, hey, you're coming here to talk about Build Back Better. But there are people who drowned in Queens. And this was a problem that was known about in the 70s, that the infrastructure could not handle a storm. So it could have been prevented if we had the right infrastructure. It's an interventions process. And the thing is, they don't want to see people standing up and speaking the truth about this. But some of the best reactions I have been seeing about this particular intervention is, why aren't more people doing this? This should be a daily occurrence happening everywhere, not just in the United States. I know that there are crazy politics happening in Germany and the UK and all kinds of places. People should be standing up no matter where they are. And look, this thing about the interventions is that they happen in real time. Now we have an updated figure of over 200 people dead in North Carolina and counting. People still don't have access to water. And Kamala Harris gave an embarrassing press conference where she said to the families of people who lost everything that they are going to be receiving $750 per household. What is that actually supposed to do for people? That is why us intervening and standing up and telling the truth right now is government accountability, and that is the exercise of free speech. So act quickly and act fast in the next days, and do it as if your life depends on it, because it absolutely does. I have more to say, but I'll leave it for the discussion afterwards.
Great. Thank you, Jose. Excellent. So I shared the video in the chat. People can find this if you're on YouTube or elsewhere. You can find this video on X. You can go to Jose Vega's Twitter account or X account and find the video there. Thank you so much. And please contact me or Jose if you are interested in doing interventions like this. We are happy to assist and help you figure out how to do this and find some in your area. So thank you. So we will continue. Okay, so next we have Colonel Richard Black, who's the former head of the U.S. Army's Criminal Law Division at the Pentagon and a former Virginia state senator. He's been on a number of times, and I greatly appreciate you, Mr. Richard Black, Colonel Black, for everything that you've done. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Anastasia. First of all, let me congratulate Jose Vega. For those of you who don't know, he's running for Congress in the South Bronx, the poorest single congressional district in America, a place that should be receiving American tax money that is instead going to Ukraine and to Israel to fund all these wars. So congratulations on what you're doing there. I want to mention to you, the media is very skillful at diverting public attention from one thing and another. Obviously, that's the case with what Jose did, which I think is very newsworthy. And another thing that has been sort of erased from the news is there was a 2-year battle on the Ukrainian-Russian front over a place called Ugledar. It was a fortress that has held out for over 2 years, despite constant Russian attacks. And just within the past week, the fortress of Ugledar collapsed. And this is one of the principal elements of the Ukrainian defensive line, which is increasingly under attack in a number of places. But Ugledar has fallen. The Ukrainians have retreated, and the media have very skillfully skirted the issue and moved on to other things. What I want to do right now is to just mention to you that there was an apparent Israeli attack on Syria in an area that is the site for the major Russian installation in the Middle East at the Himyman Air Base, which was established back in 2015, and there was the attack, and it was a very massive attack. Apparently involved reportedly 30 heavy naval missiles that were launched from warships. There's some doubt about the exact composition of that. The attack destroyed a warehouse / arms depot that was jointly used by Russia and Iran. Apparently, the attack did not hit the Russian air base itself, and there were no Russian casualties, but the arms depot was very badly damaged with many secondary explosions. Russia built the base in 2015 when, after several years of incredibly brutal war against Syria. Russia intervened on the side of Syria to prevent the possible collapse of Syria, which was under attack by ISIS and Al-Qaeda terrorists, funded, directed, supported by the Central Intelligence Agency with the help of MI6. So this massive area has been controlled by Russia since 2015. They have used it to launch many airstrikes against the CIA-backed terror proxy armies that have rampaged across Syria. The attack of the 30 missiles lasted for 40 minutes, and it was at this ammo depot believed to have held munitions that were brought in by Iran and were subsequently farmed out to various Iranian allies, particularly the Hezbollah militia that's defending the border with Lebanon. And so this attack by Israel was done in conjunction with its invasion of Lebanon. It's important to recognize that this is not the first time that Israel has invaded Lebanon. This is the fourth major invasion by Israel. Israel has always had its eyes on the Libyan seacoast, the port at Beirut, and I think that Netanyahu envisions that with all of the wars, all of the various offensives that he's taking, that somehow out of this will come major acquisitions of Arab lands that can be added to further expand Israel beyond what it is today. It's interesting that there was a report out of the Kiev Post, Ukrainian paper, where it was really quite ecstatic about the attack so close to the Russian air base. And it said, what wonderful chutzpah the Israelis had shown by launching this attack and ignoring the U.S. red lines over and concerns about nuclear war. There's no doubt that Ukraine is in a very desperate posture, and they would very much like to see the United States directly engaged in the war against Russia, and I think they're quite willing to see a nuclear war break out. And so this is a continuing notching up of this spreading conflict throughout the world, and it's certainly right now the focus is on the Middle East, but we see forces coming together to join and to link up the battle against Russia, the battle against Iran, the battle against all of the Arab nations in the Middle East, most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And so we continue to see a situation of increasing volatility globally, driven not by the American people, but by a combination of deep state actors out of the White House, out of London, and out of the globalist organizations that have placed such enormous bets on the outcome of war. We need to do everything that we can to stop it.
Thank you, Colonel Black, for that. And absolutely, we do need to do everything to stop it, including throwing the kitchen sink. So thank you again for that, especially coming from yourself and what you've done in your what you represent from your past. Thank you. Okay, so next we have Jonathan Kutab, who he's been on in the past as well. I very much appreciate many of the interventions that you're making, Mr. Kutab. He's the executive director of Friends of Sabeel North America and also the co-founder of Nonviolence International. So thank you for joining us again, Mr. Kutab.
Thank you. Well, I don't know what I can add to the strategic large picture of the danger of a nuclear war erupting. But I can point out that the reason why we haven't had a nuclear war for the last 50 years was because there has been a precarious but stable acceptance of a number of principles in international law. And the danger is that those principles are currently being under severe attack. Those principles, in my view, need to be respected regardless of which side of a particular conflict one happens to be. We have close to 200 countries in the world today. Most of them have some kind of dispute with their neighbors, whether it's differing interests, whether it's historic claims, whether it's water rights, whether it's security threats, whether it's tribal and racial groups on the other side of the line, whatever. But there has been a principle that you should not acquire territory by force. You should not annex territory of your neighbor. You should not attack them, but you certainly, if there's an attack and if there are conflict, you should not annex that territory by force. That's been a bedrock of international law, and we see that being violated now with impunity. Whether it's Western Sahara by Morocco, whether it's Israel annexing Golan, Jerusalem, and the West Bank, whether it's Russia and the Ukraine, whatever, that bedrock principle needs to be maintained. A second principle: you should avoid civilian casualties, even if there's a conflict. There is a clear distinction between combatants and non-combatants. Even soldiers and combatants, once they raise a white flag, or once they are wounded, or once they are captured, need to be protected under the Geneva Conventions and others. Regardless of who is right and who is wrong and who started and who didn't start it, this should be a bedrock principle. Now we are seeing it systematically being destroyed by Israeli claims that, oh, human shields, and they are really hiding and they're embedding themselves among the civilian population, and we have no choice. We must go after those targets. Forget about distinction. Forget about proportionality. If we have the power, we can do it. A third very important principle is that you should avoid hitting medical facilities, hospitals, and clinics. We've seen that done systematically in Gaza. And when they've succeeded in Gaza of doing it with impunity, we have seen them do it in Lebanon today. 200 medical personnel have been killed the last 2 weeks. 28 of them within the last 24 hours. We have had Israeli notices, warnings being given to the civil defense that if your ambulances or your personnel go after an airstrike, they will be hit and targeted. This is being openly said to medical facilities in Lebanon. This has never happened before in any conflict in human history. Number 4, you should not use hunger as a weapon. You should not cut off water, food, and medical supply to an enemy population, no matter what. We have seen Israel do that systematically, openly announcing that they are doing it without any, with total impunity. Now, we also have seen an utter disregard for international law, international institutions, international courts. Have you ever imagined?
Mr. Kutab, you're muted.
Of the International Criminal Court would be threatened with sanctions, would be threatened with arrest. The judges, the prosecutors. We have never seen this kind of impunity. We know that the United States and Britain and others that use the veto to make the Security Council less effective than it ought to be. But we've never seen this level of utter disregard for international law. Now, I say all these things not just as a Palestinian or a partisan in the ongoing genocide in Gaza and the West Bank. I say that as a human rights international lawyer, and I say that as a human being who is concerned with the survival of the human race, which can only happen through international cooperation, through a set of principles and rules that govern the behavior of all countries, whether we like them or not, whether they're on our side or not. Torture is torture, should be illegal, regardless of who is the victim and who is the perpetrator. Another principle that is now being systematically rejected and violated by the Israelis. Again, this is a brief intervention that I wanted to make with an appeal, a determined appeal on behalf of international law, on behalf of international principles, on behalf of our need for survival as a human race, regardless of whatever conflicts we are involved in, and hopefully that they would not escalate into nuclear confrontation, which is almost likely to happen in the Middle East, with Iran being dragged on against its will by Israel escalating. I've never heard this term. They de-escalate through escalation. They want to de-escalate the conflict by escalating itself and trying to drag other countries into it. The utter craziness of and lack of logic that is, I think, unprecedented in our history. These are my comments, and again, I welcome discussion or objection if people think that I am not correct.
Thank you, Mr. Kutab. I think that is very well put and underscores, really us having to unify humanity for the sake of the common good. I think that that's really what it comes down to right now. No matter where people stand on the political spectrum, there is no excuse for what's happening right now. There's just no excuse. Trying to bring about the annihilation of humanity, there's no justification for that, ever. I don't care how people want to put it. And you do have people right now, we've reported this, I believe in our invitation, that you have leading articles that are coming out, top media articles that are saying that Israel should use nuclear weapons, or they could use nuclear. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. And we saw this. We were talking about this just weeks ago on this discussion here. So thank you again, Mr. Kutab, for this. And we will, I'm sure, have more discussion about it. People have been taking these and using it in their organizing. So let's actually go to, I'm going to make a slight adjustment to the agenda and go to Sarah, who is a Schiller Institute representative from Peru. And they just organized an official BRICS, and you can correct me, please, but an official BRICS, BRICS conference where Helga Sepp-LaRouche spoke, and you can report on this. I won't say any more than that. It was excellent. Please go ahead, Sarah.
Buenos días con todos. Sí, ciertamente la conferencia que se desarrolló el día de ayer en la Universidad de San Marcos, Lima, fue un verdadero éxito y está teniendo repercusiones increíbles. Bueno, se trató de un conversatorio académico internacional al que denominamos los BRICS, estrategias de desarrollo y mecanismos
BRICS,
de cooperación en un
development
mundo
strategies and mechanisms for cooperation in the multipolar world. This is our event, not just because we were among the sponsors, but it was also sponsored by the Russian Embassy in Peru and the San Marcos University in Peru, which was the first university founded in South America, well, in the Americas actually, and Schiller Institute, which was clearly recognized by several of the speakers. Indeed, Anastasia, this event was among the events that Russia has sponsored. 200 events of BRICS 2024 chaired by Russia. And this is a unique event which has been carried out in South America. It was also an event which, due to its uniqueness, maintained all the protocol qualities of an official event. I think the most significant aspect of the event, aside from the stature of the participant, is that faced with the bleak landscape presented by the presenters, where we are indeed at the gates of hell, from the global south, Lima, Peru, and with the participation of other global south protagonists, a very important ray of optimism shines through, because if anything was communicated by the various presenters, it was indeed that faced with the circumstances in the world presently, a horizon of hope for the future and for future generations, for our youth, opens up. In fact, we had some 500 people physically present at the event, aside from the YouTube event, and it was held in both Spanish and English. And the repercussions are being felt now, because I've just heard that both the Andina press agency in Peru, and particularly TASS, the Russian news agency, has listed us as the event of the day. I would like to first report that there was a very outstanding participation. Personally present, there were ambassadors of Russia, China, Brazil, and from Egypt and India, and also the South African ambassador. Although there were several diplomatic representatives who participated, although they did not speak. And aside from the participation and message given by each of the ambassadors, each of the BRICS countries, the founding BRICS countries, provided experts on BRICS issues who presented from the perspective of each country what they expect to gain from BRICS. And each one of them very clearly gave us much food for thought. They invited young people to contemplate an optimism, to nurture optimism for the future. I would like to also say that aside from the ambassadors there, President, we received greetings from what is known as the current chief representative of BRICS, a Russian, Mr. Kaisayev, and we also heard from the leader of the BRICS expert group, Dr. Victoria Panova, and experts from other countries, China, India, Brazil, and among them, and I believe that Helga's presentation on the section of seminar experts was crucial because her presentation set the strategic context, the importance that there is this alternative being built in the world, in which the key topic of discussion is the construction of a new development architecture, where the key issue is planning the ways in which it may be possible to make development the name of peace, that indeed it is possible to build a community of sovereign nations, sovereign, each in itself. And obviously, due to time constraints, I will try to summarize. I cannot report on each and every presentation, but I would appreciate it if Helga's presentation can be shared. You will see the analysis that she presented at the forum. I will briefly review some of the participants and their interventions. What can I say? Well, I would just reiterate that the implicit message of everyone, all of the BRICS participants, were expressing optimism, and that each of them are contributing, that they are a community of nations in a world of opportunity. And we must build our sovereignty step by step and should be proud of ourselves as nations, as cultures. And the issue of diverse cultures is not an obstacle, but rather a strength. This was very noteworthy. On the other hand, another key message which generated much optimism was to state the fact that BRICS is becoming a platform for the Global South, in which the Global South's aspirations for shared development can be brought about. We were also confirmed, it was confirmed that it is a community that is not simply there, but is growing as a representative of the aspirations of the global majority. So all of this was very interesting. I will give you just a thumbnail, a sketch of all of the presentations, and clearly the young participants, in light of the profound and sharp analysis provided by Helga, I would like to highlight Dr. Panova's intervention, which I believe she is the chief BRICS expert in Russia. She told us all, and this gave the young people much optimism by saying that the BRICS is becoming indeed the kernel of a new world order. And I will quote, "We are doing things that no one expected us to do." This is very important because she said this in the presence of a number of youth who were eager to hear this. She said, "I speak to you now from our ongoing BRICS International School, which has been going on since 2017. In fact, I hope that you, students, young people, participate in this educational process for youth on the issues that BRICS is developing. In fact, we have now reached 36 countries altogether whose youths are currently participating in these teaching experiences. This all obviously generated much optimism among the youth. And in fact, all of the interventions are worth going into, but I will have to limit myself due to time issues. The Chinese ambassador, Mr. Song Yang, was smiling, I should add, and suggested that there is room in the BRICS.
I'm sorry, we have a few other speakers to get to. If you could summarize, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, ya, sí. Bueno,
Okay.
tuvimos también, bueno, intervinieron para...
We also had interventions in
bueno, el embajador indio...
the ambassador from India spoke of how important it is to transfer science and technology to promote development. For Peru, we had Luis Vasquez representing Executive Intelligence Review, and as municipal BRICS representative in Peru. I think that the BRICS participation complemented Helga's presentation.
La plataforma de los BRICS es la alternativa,
stressing that the BRICS platform is the one providing peaceful resolution to conflicts among nations and within nations as well. There was further elaboration on the impact that the construction of the Chancay port in Peru and the local and regional effect that this will have. I would, in fact, like to let you know that Chancay will be a very important industrial hub with also with an airport, and is already having an economic effect. In fact, the British press and others have already begun to speculate on the dangers or threat that Chancay represents in the pre-programmed scenario for 2025 for an eventual war in the Pacific. To summarize, I could not exaggerate how magnificent yesterday's event was, but I can boil it down to the sense of optimism for the Global South. The Global South is not a mere observer in current historical moment, but is an active participant. And I would like to quote Luis Vasquez in his final words closing the event, and he quoted Henry Kissinger when that evil person said that history is not built in the South. And Luis answered Kissinger by saying that with BRICS, history is being built in the South. That is then a very, very compact summary the event and the repercussions that will. In fact, General Laura Richardson must be burning in her efforts to make NATO lovers in this part of the world to line up to create a pincer operation between Brazil and Peru. That would be all.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for that report from Peru. This was excellent, what you guys did. I'll make sure to put the link in the chat so people can go and watch that. And I'd like to thank the BRICS, official BRICS forum for letting us repost this in our channel. So thank you, Sarah. I'm going to make a slight adjustment to the agenda just because I know that Imam Alahi has another engagement right after this, and he's squeezing this time in, even though this is his day of worship. So I want to thank you, Imam Alahi, for joining us. And I know that you are coming off of very important discussions that you've had, not only with the president of Iran, but also with other interfaith leaders in the country, and the dialogue around creating peace through these interfaith networks. So I wanted to ask you, you're a dear friend here in the Dearborn area of mine personally, and the work that you've been doing similarly, what we've seen with Kutab and others trying to go in and create peace dialogue through the many different cultures, I think is very important. So again, thank you for joining us, Imam Alahi. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Anastasia, and also Sister Helga and all organizers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Yes, I came back from New York, and I had an interfaith gathering with President Pezeshkian of Iran. Was the first time that I met with him, and we had a very good interfaith interaction regarding peace and dialogue and diplomacy and democracy. This morning, actually, I'm talking with heartbreaking of what is going on in Lebanon, and this morning in Yemen, the U.S., UK attacking Sana'a and Hadida. What happened last night in Beirut, like hell, like all this explosion, and then I see the silence, remembering what Pastor Martin of Germany said, that they first came to the socialist, I didn't speak out, and then the Unionists and the Jews, and when they came to me, there was no one left to speak out. And I think that is going on now in the Middle East, 12 months of genocide in Gaza. And President Biden and Kamala Harris talking in the last 12 months of immediate ceasefire. I don't know how immediate that didn't happen in 12 months. And now after rewarding, instead of stopping Netanyahu, rewarding him with more arms and more vetoes, United Nations, and more covering, now the same genocide is going on in Lebanon. In Gaza, in the name of fighting Hamas, in Lebanon now in the name of fighting Hezbollah, and now in Yemen in name of Houthis, but then bombing the hospitals and the schools and all this mess. So what it had to do with Hamas and Hezbollah and all of these things. So why they are now bombing Lebanon, 2 million people displaced and over 10,000 just in the last 10 days killed or wounded, just because they show solidarity with with Gaza, and they say, stop Gaza, we are looking for peace, we don't want war. Stop that war and invasion in Gaza. But now they are punishing them. There was Amanpour talking on CNN with the minister in Lebanon that even Shahid said Nasrallah, he had agreed to have a ceasefire with Israel that suggested by the White House. They knew that he was, but then they killing him by dropping 85 bombs in a residential area and saying, oh, there are bombs in the building. For the sake of God, who would put bomb on their, in the basement of those residential areas? So there are so much mess, unbelievable what kind of word of all of these lies and deception and destruction and death. But then we hear Daniel Hagari of the Israeli spokesman for the army saying, the Hamas and Hezbollah, these are ideology, these are movement. You cannot, so if you cannot destroy them, why all of this destruction? You see all of a sudden from Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, who never comes and lead the Friday prayer today for the first time in the last 5 years. This shows that these people really, they have something to say and they are not scared to die for, standing for the principle. The Iranian foreign ministers was in Beirut today. I mean, while Beirut is under fire, they didn't care and they didn't mind to go there because of principle. Look at this latest attack from Iran, 180 missiles after Tehran was hit by Israel and their guest was killed and their ambassador in Beirut was blinded. Now they reacted, 180 missiles, but not a single person in Tel Aviv, but a very close, 1 kilometers from Mossad headquarters, because these people are not looking for blood. They are not looking for, killing innocent people. They are showing patience. They are showing wisdom. And but then on the other side, you see Netanyahu talking about civilization. Is this the Israeli civilization of what is going in Dahiya in Beirut? Is this your civilization? We are children of light. What kind of light you are? Is this what is going on in Gaza and Lebanon shows any sign of civilization or any signs of being so unbelievable, brothers and sisters, to live in a world of so much, filled with so much lies and dishonesty and death and destruction. And now my question is that, is it really any achievement for Israel, or is it just a moral suicide? What kind of victory? And in our country, we have the victims of hurricane that they don't have for 5 days drinking water, but all of a sudden billions and billions of money and military goes to Israel. But the whole point is that any of this mess can make Israel safer, can make Middle East safer. And what is really the plan? What is the next? What is the strategy? So where we are going from here? This is, I was telling my son, Muhammad Hussein, I said to my son, if the Israelis, they have that much technology that they can turn the pager in Lebanon to a tool of terrorism, and lots of innocent people, in the restaurant, in the shopping center, were killed or wounded because they were close to these pagers. So if you are so smart that you can use all of these things, technology for terrorism, why you don't use this technology for peace, for harmony, for healing, for happiness, for prosperity for everyone? And let all Jews, Christians, Muslims, all of them live together in the same neighborhood. But unfortunately, they are looking for war. They are not looking for peace. And they know that no matter how much they destroy, They cannot destroy people's determination and dignity. Now, 2 million people in Lebanon, they are displaced. They lost their houses, but they did not lose their dignity, their responsibility, telling the truth, standing for humanity. So it is very unfortunate that we are living such a messy and chaotic world for our children. It is so shameful that President Biden is living with such a historic stain in his determination, in his administration. He had chance to leave a good legacy, but he is leaving the White House soon. And his legacy is a legacy of supporting this genocide. In our community, I'm dealing with people, a lot of Lebanese in our community, that they lost their loved one over there. The people who had nothing to do with any military activities, because now they are bombing even the hospital in Beirut. So many ambulances were targeted. So many healthcare workers were killed, the journalists. So we are dealing with a so amazing world that it is undescribable, unimaginable, unspeakable, too much violence. The only thing that Netanyahu and his cabinet achieved, just violence and oppression and ethnic cleansing and genocide and Holocaust. If you consider this as a victory, then you are really under so much delusion and illusion, and you need to wake up. And I feel so bad for Jews in Israel that with all of these iron domes and all of this, they don't feel safety either. And they have to wake up. But unfortunately, the propaganda machine of the Netanyahu and government and the others brainwash people so much that now he is even more popular in Israel. As much as he committing more crimes, he is getting more votes. And that was his goal from day number one. His goal is to get power. And the price paid by innocent people, men, women, and children. Officially, 150,000 Palestinians were killed or wounded. The real number is even more than double. And now in Lebanon. And then where is the next? It's Syria and Iraq and Yemen and Iran. And talking about war. Is war the solution? If you are looking for safety and peace and progress, what is the answer? What's the solution? You think with more war and more violence and more terrorism? No, that doesn't work. These people who were killed in the leaders of this movement in Beirut, you think that you finish the movement by killing the leaders or killing their supporters? Or you made them more historic, more source of inspiration? So it's totally wrong. Netanyahu and his supporters in the White House and Congress, wrong. And they are sacrificing United States image, United States interest, United States integrity in the whole world. How can we ever talk about American values or human rights or democracy and giving lecture to other nations about these values? That we destroyed all of our values, all of our principles and our image. It's a very, very dark day, and it's really stressful. When I follow the news, many times I feel I like to die and get a rest rather than going through all of this stressful news. that every moment we don't know what's going to happen next second for all these people who have nothing. They lost their houses and now food, 2 million people on the street. And they have no even safety, no certainty that what's going to happen next to them. And what is their fault? Just keep talking about Iran, 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 Iran. Okay, what is it? So are you saying that even occupation in Palestine is Iranian fault, right? The Iranian caused that occupation in West Bank and Gaza and all. Do you think that the Palestinians or Lebanese, they need Iranians to go and tell them about the pain of occupation and pain of military invasion? So it's all lies, all propaganda. And it's very unfortunate that we as people of interfaith, we care, but we don't have power to stop it. And those who have power, they don't care. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much.
But we appreciate what you said, Imam Elahi. But I think Helga would like to respond to what you're saying. Helga?
Well, I want to express my sympathy with you and naturally all the people who are in this incredible condition. And I hope your words are helping to shake up the world conscience, because it is not just the Middle East, because if we don't stop this, it will be on a worldwide scale what you referenced with Pastor Martin Niemöller. They first came for the socialists, then for the gypsies, then for the Jews, and then when they came to me, there was nobody left to defend me. That is the condition of the world right now. But I would just say, let's not give up our hope that we can move the situation, because, what Sarah was reporting about before, there is another system already in the process of being built. And, I have the feeling that we are going for a big shakeup, some big catastrophe. And, it looks as almost you cannot stop it from happening. And one can only hope that it's not the final really big nuclear catastrophe which eliminates all life on Earth. But, I think we should absolutely proceed with the optimism that our method of dialogue among the great religions, dialogue among the great cultures, insisting on nonviolence, that is the stronger method. So please stay with your convictions and do not give up hope.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Helga. And I appreciate your leadership and Anastasia and the entire interfaith that I know that at the end, as you mentioned, dialogue and diplomacy is the solution and is the answer. And we need to keep this, because the other alternative is what is going on. Since they don't want to have dialogue, then the next alternative is death and destruction. Unfortunately, they chose that option over an option of peace that is good for everyone and will continue. I have to, I continue to listen to you, to the group for a few more minutes, but then I have to leave because Friday prayer, and also I have journalists from Al Jazeera. They are coming to House of Wisdom today to have a conversation. Thank you so much, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Imam Elahi. And as we begin to go to the next person, let me simply say that it's precisely because of what you outlined that some people, different people in America, are trying to find ways to go beyond what they themselves even think they can do. We are all thinking about some initiatives we can take. And I think that the next person that's on has some things to say about that. I believe this is Diane Sayre, who's an independent candidate for the United States Senate in New York State. Diane?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Imam Elahi, for your remarks. It's very important. And I will say that probably both Jose Vega, who's running for Congress, and myself are quite bothered by the reality that the majority of the American people do not think we should be spending billions of dollars killing people in other countries, period. But it's even made worse by the fact, as you addressed, we do not even care for the people of the United States. In effect, we are treating human beings all over the planet in a completely degraded and disgusting fashion. Now, given that the American people don't want this, why is it that our so-called representatives, the people that we elect who are supposed to represent our views, seem to believe that they can go ahead and do whatever they want, sell their soul to the highest bidder, or cave into the filthiest blackmailer, whatever it is, or some combination, and they don't have to represent us? And how can we change this? So both of us participated in a rally in Washington, the Rage Against the War Machine, on Saturday, which Anastasia was also involved in helping to organize, followed by another rally on Sunday. But as I was thinking about what we could do to break out, I thought about Lyndon LaRouche's insistence on the importance of New York City and Manhattan. And anyone who has been in New York City, and you will be amazed, because despite the fact that the city is completely disintegrating and collapsing, and you see human beings in horrible condition all over the streets, New Yorkers remain very proud, very self-assured, very opinionated. And it means that if you can provoke a controversy, a breakout, a dialogue, that it will spread all over. And therefore, what we decided to do was to organize a very special kind of rally, which will occur on Saturday, October 26th. And there will be an international live stream available. Jose has just posted the campaign fund, and I will be very clear that only U.S. citizens and permanent residents may donate to the fund for this, and we need your donations, so please help. But anyone can listen online, and as many people who want to come into New York. We have a venue that holds 1,300 people. It is a beautiful concert hall. And the plan is to combine the Voices for Peace, people like Helga, also Scott Ritter, Colonel Wilkerson, Ray McGovern, myself, Jose, and performance of classical music. There will be a chorus, which will perform spirituals and other music, a string quartet, a brass quintet, because part of the reason I think that people are not fighting as they should be is that we perhaps have forgotten why mankind should be saved and protected. That human beings are fundamentally good, that mankind is a beautiful species, that we don't know the potential of any baby who has been murdered in Gaza, who might have been a poet, a violinist, a nuclear physicist, discovered the cure to Parkinson's disease, that this is what we are trying to save, and it's a common mission of mankind, and therefore we wanted to do something which was absolutely beautiful, but would pull together the people for a conception of fighting. We are not a protest movement. We don't want to all die in a nuclear war and then say, from wherever we end up in the afterlife, well, at least I was on the right side. That is not our intention. This is a battle that has to be won. We have to figure out a breakthrough to make a shift in the United States. And I think the question of beauty and humanity is something that our enemies have a very hard time defending themselves against. So this is Saturday, October 26th at 2:00 in the afternoon, New York time. You can see the link there for the website. And I hope that everybody can help us to make this a success.
Thank you, Diane. Let me just let people know that Anastasia temporarily lost her connection, and that's why you're not seeing her. There's somebody, if the imam can stay on for a minute, I think Jose Vega wanted to say something, and I will just reference that I believe that one of the K-Talk radio or something like that is actually simulcasting or doing something with respect to this. I want to clarify that. Jose, why don't we go to you, because I think the imam has to get going, so go ahead.
Yes, Imam, I wanted to thank you for your remarks. And I thought the most important thing you said was the fact that there are people who are not looking for blood in this conflict, who are doing everything they can to continue to seek out whatever shred of diplomacy continues to exist. And I think that's very important that we get that word out immediately, because the propaganda here, as you're very well aware of in the United States, is that, that there is, that, Iran is provoking this war, Lebanon is provoking this war, and that the only defense is that Israel is defending itself. But the truth needs to actually be out there, that there are people who are doing their best to do diplomatic resolutions. And so I think what this requires is for us to do joint national work. There has been discussions that I've been having with people in various parts of the country for the need for something national and international through nonviolence, and through the intervention principle as well. As you may have seen in the beginning, the video that was played of me speaking out at this event, where we need to get other people doing the exact same thing. And so I just wanted to take a minute to say that and let you know that there are people who are part of veteran associations as well that have been working with us, and we just need to continue to collaborate and expand. And I would like to figure out a way to get in touch with you, Imam Elahi, so that I can talk with you further about how we can collaborate nationally on building something through nonviolence. And so,
thank you so much. You're my number 313.
Wait. I will get that from you on the side. This is. Yes, yep. I don't want to make that public. I'm sure Anastasia.
Anastasia Battle is the clearinghouse for all of these things.
Right. Great assist, Jose.
So, okay, all right.
I don't mind to do it, because Israelis, they already have my number.
Well, we don't need to make their job easier. So
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I would just like to say, just on my own behalf, that not supposed to do this, but the issue of collaboration in the United States, the creative nonviolent direct action, but which is vigorous and polemical and uncompromising, is something we all can be committed to. I think we are missing some opportunities in the United States. I think there are things we can do together, and there are some things that some people can do that other people can't do. It's also true internationally. I think we all know this, right? Sometimes some people can do interventions in some countries and they can't do them the same way other places. There are different kinds of ways that we have to think about working together to support one another. And I think we have our own dialogue of civilizations and cultures that we need to promote. That's what Helga tried to do with her statement of the 10 principles. I think what you said was actually not just eloquent, not just agonizing, not just clearly true, but really essential. I think people heard it pretty clearly. I certainly did. I want to thank you again for what you said, what you're doing, and we're going to just turn this over to Dennis Small now to get us to questions and answers. But thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now moving into the period of questions and answers and discussion, in which we are opening up the chat for comment and also enabling your function so that you can raise your digital hand. I'm sure you can raise your physical one, but now you can raise your digital hand to get in the queue to participate in the discussion. 3 minutes per speaker, please, maximum. We have a lot of people who have a lot of things to say and share, and our intention is to take 1 more hour and finish by 1:30 Eastern Time. For those of you who are listening on YouTube, this is the moment where we will be ending the live stream on YouTube. This is the moment, if you want to participate in this discussion, to go to the Schiller Institute site where you can register to get the immediate Zoom link so that you can participate in this next stage of the discussion. So that will be placed, I hope, by Dave in the chat so that everyone can go to the Schiller Institute site to register if that's what you want to do. And we will now proceed to end the streaming part of this and go to the discussion period.